I'm with Ted Souter, a lifelong resident of Spring Hill and a member of the 1952 state championship football team, and later on a coach at Spring Hill High, and presently is a principal here in Spring Hill, Louisiana. Ted, I know you got many great memories about Lumberjack football. Why don't you just first of all tell us a little bit about the people that you played with on that state championship team, who they were?
Well, everybody will have fond memories of Coach Balcom and his teams through the years, but back in my high school days, I remember especially the state championship club in 1952, and I believe out of that group there were probably 6 or 7 that wound up getting scholarships to major colleges off of that ball club.
They were good. Hey, who were they, Ted?
I remember, Glenn Haynes, Roderick Palford, Virgil Jester, Benny Ray Tyler, Jack Montgomery, John David Crow. Paul Crow also. Paul got a scholarship too.
And so did Ted Souter to Arkansas.
It went to the Hills with the Razorbacks, which are doing great this year, I'm so proud to say.
I know you are. Ted, I know there's a lot of great memories on that championship football team. Could you tell us, in your own mind, for you, what was the greatest thrill you had?
I think probably it was the final ball game. I remember probably the toughest ball game in the playoffs that we encountered that year was against Ruston. And it was a blood and guts battle up here. I mean, it was down in the dirt and mud, and we wound up winning that one. That was the toughest ball game of the playoffs. But I guess the best one was the one where the group came from South Louisiana on the train, and all the supporters did, and I think it was 3 days before they all got back down, and after we waxed them up here, we wound up, that's the luck of Mr. Balcom, we played all of the playoff games right up here on the hill at Spring Hill. At that time, they flipped a coin to determine the locations, and Mr. Balcom held a lucky hand that year.
Ted, I know that the friendship that y'all had on that football team started back long before that. Tell us something about the early days when y'all were in grammar school. Did y'all know at that time y'all were going to be, did you have that desire to be great athletes?
It was an unusual situation in that the group all went together. We were in school together, like at the junior high level. Well, our recesses were spent, we kicked our shoes off, we had a touch football game. That's what we did at every recess and after lunch. And we played together through junior high. And then it sort of, everybody knew everybody and knew what they were going to do when we hit the high school level. So it was a group that really was together all the way through the high school era.
Of course, when you talk about that football team, there were great football players on that football team, but of course, John David Crow finally won the Heisman Trophy. The little that I know about him, he's a fine gentleman. Presently at Texas A&M, an old nemesis of yours when you were at Arkansas, but what do you think made him the great football player in addition to his physical attributes that he had?
And it wasn't any doubt about just the heart he had, the desire that he had. Size and ability, he had that going for him, and of course he was just a natural athlete. If you remember the very next year, after we won the state championship in football, he was also one of the starting basketball players that won the state championship in that. So that tells you the type of athlete that he was all the way through his career.
Let me throw a few things your way, Ted. I know some things that maybe a lot of people do not well know. You weighed 160 pounds, and you played offensive and defensive end, not only for the Spring Hill Lumberjacks, you played for the Arkansas Razorbacks in a single wing attack, and that puts a lot of pressure on a offensive end. And you were voted, I believe, the all-time 160 pound and under all Southwest Conference. Is that right?
That was back in the good old days. Man, I got up to 172 pounds one year. I was big. It was great. It was a great situation. Things broke right for me too at that point in time. It was a head coach named Bowden White that he went more on what a fellow wanted to do than on what his size was, and we had a number of people like myself that didn't fit a pattern of a major school, major college athlete. That we played together and we did well. The fact is, we won Southwest Conference as sophomores, the group that I went up there with as freshmen.
Ted, one more thing. I know you coached at Spring Hill High School too, and there were some great players that you coached. But I want to go back to one more thing. What did it mean to you to be a Spring Hill Lumberjack, and what has it meant through the years, and what did it do to assist you in getting ready for the life that you've lived?
Well, it's being hometown person, and the fact that we've had people like John David who's gone out and done well, people recognize the name of Spring Hill, and you've got a start of conversation wherever you are. Somebody knows somebody or something about the town, which is a definite advantage. The town's been good to me, and years ago I debated on whether I really should come back, back home to as far as making a living, and it didn't take me long to decide that I liked it here. So as a result, I've made a career out of the school business here.
One more thing, Ted. Who were your coaches that year? The state championship year.
Mr. Balcom. Coach Balcom was head coach. I had Coach Roy Nichols and Coach O.E. Red Harrison, who I replaced here as principal of the school where I'm working.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one more thing. Billy Balcom is a legendary coach in Spring Hill. He's turned into, in fact, the football stadium's named for him now. But what do you think it was? What did he transmit to his players? And I know you played under coaches and you coached yourself. What did he transmit to his players that was so important?
He was coach, and he was a gentleman. Regardless of what you did, where you were expected to represent yourself in the best manner, and whether it was on the field or off. High morals. He taught my Sunday school class up till he was not able to. That'll tell you the caliber gentleman he was. He was a super gentleman, and anybody that ever worked under him will attest to that fact.
One of the things I remember about him was his enthusiasm.
Well, he would get fired up now, and that reminds me of our state championship year. He was I don't know how to say it, but I remember that he had a particular suit of clothes on when we started our winning ways that year. When we wound up the season, he still every Friday night had on that exact suit of clothes. He wore it through the year. He wasn't superstitious, he said, but he didn't change his attire either. He kept it through the season for every ball game.
Ted Souter, thank you.